Good night. Good night. So, we've discussed triggers. So, this will be the second video, the addendum video, with regards to triggers that are implanted on the minds of the aliens, the Titans. And so, what I will do now, so what we need to do is first to add things that were not discussed yesterday, because I have not prepared the list ahead. And second, to discuss a sixth category, which is the category of behaviors that are required from the Titans. So let's start with all the things that I have omitted, and there are many actually. And of course, that even after this kind of like addendum, the list will still be partial. But maybe if I recall others in the future, I'll just do another addendum video. So, one thing is very, very, very clear to me. One thing is and was very clear to me is that and this is true not to all the victims of the Israelis, but specifically to the foreigners, to the Titans, is that they are supposed to be, for some reason, they're supposed to fear the Russian and the Arabic language. I don't know why. But each time, people the cell surrounds you, and they are always surrounded by intelligence cell. They want to keep them under control, or hopefully to keep them under control. It never works, but for me. But it doesn't mean that they don't keep trying it. That's the way it is. They just keep doing the same thing. So it's extremely common that they start to speak or to replay recordings in Arabic or Russian. Now, I don't have any problem with Arabic or Russian. I do not speak Arabic nor Russian. Unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to study. I think both languages are objectively very important and are very common in Israel, because there are a lot of Russian, former USSR immigrants here, and of course many Arabs here. Probably if I could if an angel from above would give me a gift that I can immediately acquire the ability to speak and in two languages, without any effort. I would have chosen these two actually, because they are very important. Even if I would have lived in another state, which hopefully I will. But they are very important. But from the Israeli Nazis' point of view, these are kind of they are used to silence the foreigners. Now, I'm not sure if there is any functional kind of perhaps there is also a functional perhaps there is a functional reason for this terrorism, state terrorism. Certainly, it's a way to keep the slaves out of the reach of people that are considered from the Israeli perspective dangerous, which are the Arabs. It's of course because they consider themselves enemies to the Arabs, of course, and the Russians. My assumption is that, again, this is an American territory, and it's not really. Yes, it's not a Cold War, but it's a little bit. It is. So it's a way to keep them close to where they should stay all the time. I think. To keep them away from the enemy, which is the Arabs in the case of the Israelis, and the Russians in the case of the Americans, and which are the real bosses here. Should be said again, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. If empirically it doesn't work. They just keep doing it. in the millionth time or a billionth time. They just keep doing the same thing. Again, the same thing. Now, another important trigger that I don't know how I forgot to mention, because I actually mentioned it a lot in the past, but I mean, maybe because I mentioned it so much, I mean, I kind of like omitted it from the list, but it's fire. Fire, and specifically the sound of the lighter. And this is, so I spoke about it a lot in the past. It's not a new issue. It's presupposed like on the notion that these are creatures that cannot, probably in the past, I mean, today people even don't know, I mean, about Venus, like in Israel. I mean, it's so stupid and ignorant, but I mean, in the past it was known that they are from Venus. I mean, and many people cross the gate to Venus all the time. It was like a day-to-day thing in Israel for many years. So the idea that it's presumably, Paleolithic society that cannot even know how to produce fire, so they are incredibly afraid of fire. I think that all of this is bullshit. Like, I mean, it's every piece of, like, I mean, every kind of, like, I mean, part of this argument is probably based on all sorts of false mythologies. The fact that it's not true, they do know how to create fire in Venus. It's just not true, and even if there weren't, fires happen from time to time anyway. Like, I mean, it's not that. And they are not afraid, and it's not true that they are afraid of fire. It's just not true. I mean, it's just not. It's just wrong. I mean, some of the things that the Israelis thought throughout the years, and like created all sorts of like methodologies of terrorism that are predicated upon these thoughts or any other kind of methodologies. Some of it is just wrong. I mean, it's just. I mean, after some time, you just. I mean, and research and inquiries, you just understand that it's just plainly wrong. I mean. Because what happens is that someone thinks about something and the other replicate him, and you see so much, like in Israel, like, I mean, they do the same thing again and again. Like, I mean, like, just to say, I mean, they do it all the time to me. Like, I mean, they when they want to scare me, like, I mean, they sort of use the lighters like very close to me, or they smoke like very, I mean, like just, I mean, on my face. And you've seen, I mean, like in the last couple of weeks when I use the hookah, like, I mean, in kind of like a performance art, I mean. Like, I mean, I can smoke, like, I mean, like, I mean, like a 200 people, like, I mean, just to say. I mean, and it was shown, like, I mean, and it's not new. I mean, that's the way it is. Like, you've seen me do it, like, I mean, I can smoke like 200 people, but I don't care. And regarding fire, one of the things that can be done with the Neros, and I've done it quite a bit, and it was featured in this channel. And I don't put much effort to it. I mean, since I'm in the second house arrest, which is now, I mean, here in this hostel because of like safety reasons. But when I was sitting under arrest in my mother's apartment, it was a major feature in this channel. One of the major things is the issue of fuel enrichment, of changing the chemical properties of fuels, most commonly oils and beeswax, so they will be more efficient. And this was done a lot, and it can be done a lot. They are very good at that. It's like a major scientific issue, like, I mean, pest that I kind of like abandoned because of this. Because here, I mean, it's almost impossible to do it here in this room without like safety problems. So I mean, but I've like, I mean, I've walked the street with the torches that, I mean, like, I mean, like the nice Targaryen, like ball. I don't say that I do not have natural aversion of fire, but I'm afraid of fire much less than the average Homo sapiens. Now again, I'm not a Titan, I'm a hero, it's another thing, but I mean, they've seen it and it was recorded, like I walked the street in Tel Aviv with like the human torch, like, I mean, with like, I mean, a torch that is made of like enriched fuel, which means that, I mean, that a tiny bit of beeswax is burns like it's like rocket fuel. And this was featured in this blog, that it's documented, it's video, it's not like hearsay or something that you need to believe, like, from a prophet. It's scientific fact. And it was documented, and like, in order to do it, like, in a replicable way, like how to. It's not legendarium, the legendarium of Arthur and the Holy Grail. No, it's like it's a tangible thing. Like, I mean, the enrichment of fuels and specifically beeswax, and like how can you make, like, I mean, terrible, like, I mean, torches like that can. And I've even done it during the last winter. I mean, it was all raining, and I mean, everything was wet, and it still like burned, like, I mean, just, and it all like, not on me because I didn't want to burn, but I mean just in front of my head. So I walked the street in Tel Aviv with like a burning torch like near my face, and I mean, and it was kind of like a terrible thing to watch, and it was recorded and uploaded, and but they still think that, I mean, I'm afraid of their cigarettes. Why? They just repeat everything again and again and again and again and again. It's just a repetition. It's just a repetition. But what is maybe is true, that maybe they implanted the fear of fire on their victims using the subliminal mechanism, the golden earring, and other all sort of like, I mean, psychological conditioning terror. This is possible that I actually did it, because that's what they do. I mean, they invent also things that presumably the foreigners are naturally afraid of, and then they kind of like reinforce that with psychological terror. But of course, if it was true that it was naturally like that, why do you need this reinforcement? I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. Now, there's the issue of colors. Now, this is a complicated issue because I spoke about it a lot in the past. I mean, but this colors is a very complicated issue, because Titans don't see colors the same as humans, and I do see. My vision is that of humans. My color vision is that of a human, of Homo sapiens. Now, not all Homo sapiens see colors the same. So there is variance among humans, but I mean, in general, they see it very, very closely. I mean, it's a huge issue. I've spoken about it a lot. Different cultures have different interpretation, and it's a cultural issue, a psychological issue. It's a huge the issue of color. And it's close to me because I do art. Like, I mean, art is important to me. Even before I started painting myself, art was I was interested in art. I mean, before I started to actually do art. But I mean, now more than ever, I mean, this is kind of like, I mean, I have a lot to say on the matter, and I have said a lot on the matter, but I mean, so it's a huge subject, the issue of colors, and also the Neros. It's part important for the Neros also. I mean, because color is part of because it's the symbolic language of the Neros. They speak about it tremendously a lot. I mean, in this channel, in other social accounts, like the language of the Neros, that is an extremely important thing. And part of the language is colors. I mean, colors are important in the language. Like, and it's not exactly like, and it's not like humans. I mean, they use it's not like things. I mean, they don't have the typical meanings that they don't give the typical. I mean, the usual interpretation that they give to all sorts of things is not the usual interpretation of that humans give to things. Even though there are some similarities, like, I mean, the association of red with life, which is true both for humans and for Neros. The association of the color red with the phenomenon of life. Yes, so this is something that, I mean, yes, I mean, it's true for both humans and Neros, but I mean, the other associations are not. I mean, most commonly, I mean. Most startlingly, I mean, the black color, which is, I mean, for humans, it's kind of like the color of the void or of nothing. And for Neros, it's just a color. Like, I mean, it's not a color. I mean, it's associated with space. But for them, it's not void. I mean, space is not void for them. For them, space is something that is there. Like, presumably the creator, God just placed space in place, because, and if it wasn't there, it wasn't black. It was something else. Maybe, I don't know, transparent or something else. But I mean, black is not it's not the color of nothing, of the void. They do not associate black with void, and they do not associate it with death. White is associated with death, and this is true to some humans as well. So I mean, it's a complicated issue. Actually, even in some Earth cultures, white is associated with death. But I mean, they do not associate black with nothing, or with, like, I mean, for them it's a color. Like, black is a color. I mean, one among many, and specifically as one that's associated with space, but not because of, like, the voids, because it's void or because it's nothing. And black and white are not I mean, for people of Earth, black and white are kind of like, I mean, like two kind of like two sides of the same, like I mean, two negative, like I know. Obviously, I mean, it's got some kind of physical, explanation, because presumably black is like when all light is like no light is reflected, and white is when all light is reflected. But for the Negroes, it's not. They do not like I mean use the black-white pairing. Like black is many times paired with silver actually. Like the silver and black are kind of like are used together. Like I mean, it's to create contrast. Like I mean, like if you want to white something, you use silver over black, and white is mostly associated with death, or with the void, or with the concept of the void. And for humans, the concept of the void is many times associated with black, but not always, but sometimes also with white. So it's complicated, and it's a big issue. It's a very big issue. It's an important issue because it's part of the language, like the symbolic language. Anyway, where were we? Certainly the Titans, they don't have the same vision because they are originated in planets that do not receive as much flux, which means, I mean, as much light. It's not exactly light, it's flux and light is not exactly the same. I mean, it's simply so that the sun doesn't, like, I mean, shine the same, because of the clouds. I mean, less sun is like, they get less sun, but they do get a lot. I mean, not like in Earth, but quite a bit. I mean, it's not like people, like sometimes people imagine Venus as like a place that is completely dark or almost dark because of the huge, huge layer of clouds, but this is not true. Because even though there are indeed tons of clouds, and this was known since hundreds of years ago, it's not part of the conspiracy. It was known by the scientists of the Age of Enlightenment. That, I mean, it's the thing. I mean, they're covered by clouds. Even though, I mean, it's still they get plenty light. I mean, because it should be remembered that, I mean, that vision, like is I mean, with regards to, I mean, to exposure of light is logarithmic. Or as they say in many languages, there is like a proverb, that they say that, I mean, like small amount of light, I mean, can expel, or I mean, can combat a lot of darkness. It's a very known proverb. I mean, and it's kind of like it has mathematics actually. It's kind of like a mathematical. Of course, it's metaphorical like all proverbs, but it also has got some kind of mathematical, articulation. Because I mean, the eyes of both Titans and humans are logarithmic, like in the exposure to light. It means that in order to be able to in order for the image that is, I mean, constructed by the brain, or the image that is created like by artificially, like over like any kind of like, I mean, after using camera, to be, I mean, more bright, much more light is needed, like in a logarithmic way, which means that I mean, much more light, and it also means that, I mean, in the reverse is also true, that it means that, I mean, you need, in order to have some kind of image reproduced, like very small amount of light is needed. This can be, I mean, you can see it in this own video. I mean, typically all the lights in the room are not like on, besides like a very small like lamp that I also, like, I mean, switched like for that, for not to be on me, but on the wall, so there will be even less like light. And I mean, so I mean, typically the place is illuminated with much more light, and if it's day, I mean, much more light is, I mean, tremendous more amount you see from the sun. But I mean, still, I mean, the image that is produced is not tremendously less bright than, I mean, never mind, it's not that important. Let's leave it aside. What I want to say is that they do receive enough light to handle themselves, even though their color vision is different than humans. And also, of course, they have tremendously long days and tremendously long nights, which affects their color, their color perception, and also their culture in tremendous way. But this is discussed a lot in this video, but let's leave it aside. It also, I mean, tells you how ridiculous is the notion that they have like natural fear of darkness. I mean, like, no, it's not something that, I mean, they are abused as children. That's why, I mean, and they are subjected to psychological terror. That's why they have fear of the dark. It's not natural. This is ridiculous. If anything, they have much less natural fear of the dark because it's a huge part of the culture that, I mean, to have nights that are as long as like a year in like, or I don't know, 7 or 8 months. I mean, so no, but and it's a huge part of the culture, like how to deal with the nights and what to do during the nights. I mean, it's also true to Earth. I mean, in Earth, they are all over, there's the night culture and the day culture, but I mean, for them, it's like a huge thing, and I speak about it quite a bit in this, like in this channel, like of like various strategies of how to deal with this phenomenon of like such a long nights, such long days, and how it affects culture and how it affects them in psychology, and like I speak about it quite a bit. Anyway, their vision is different from humans, substantially so. And I said many times, I mean, it's another reason why, I mean, you can immediately know that, I mean, I am not a Venusian and like, not a Titan, and this can be known, just that you don't even need to test me. I mean, just by watching these paintings, like all my paintings, every paint, I mean, just by watching my paintings, you can know this person, whatever he is like a Homo sapiens, or his vision is equivalent to the average vision of an Homo sapiens. I mean, it's obvious. My paintings were painted by a creature, a sentient creature that have the vision which is equivalent to the average Homo sapiens. It might be Homo sapiens or something else. In my case, it's actually something else, but yes, indeed, the vision is equivalent to that of Homo sapiens. A Titan could not have painted no chance at all that he or she could have painted my paintings. There is no way in hell. It's impossible because their color perception is tremendously different than that of humans. This would have been manifested in the painting. It's not that they see black and white, but they see different colors. And in Earth, mostly, it's disadvantage. Like, I mean, even you can live with that. Some humans are colorblind, so, and they do. I mean, they are living like, I mean, they're doing fine. I mean, so I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not something that, I mean, it's not like a terrible detrimental thing, like to like that, greatly, negatively affects their life in Earth. But it's mostly, it doesn't give them, like, I don't know of any advantages that it gives them in Earth. Probably in Venus it does. I mean, probably, I mean, in Venus they can see all sorts of things that, I mean, humans would not have been able to see in Venus, and this would have given them advantage in Venus. But in Earth, I don't know of any advantages that it gives them, and it's a disadvantage, and it's, I mean, not a huge disadvantage, but, like being colorblind, something like that. Something like being colorblind. Although it's not like, I mean, but even, when you say about the person that is colorblind, mostly it doesn't mean that he only sees like in monochromatic vision or, black and white. I mean, it's almost never like that. Colorblind, I mean, the term colorblind is kind of like, I mean, misleading because usually the people that are called colorblind, they do see colors, but just, I mean, they have also like, I mean, problems with differentiating between certain types. So it's a complicated issue and very interesting and relates to art, but I mean, just to say, Titans could not have painted my paintings. This is impossible. Only a human could have painted such painting, or a person with a vision that is equivalent to that of a human, which is the case in my case, because I'm not a human, but I have such, I mean, equivalent vision. Now, interestingly, there are 3 colors that Titans were, and especially male Titans, but it's also true to females, were conditioned against, like, so to be afraid of it. But not to the same extent. And these colors are, first of all, red and purple, and to a lesser extent, black. Now there's a question of why, and this is actually a very interesting question. First of all, I mean, no, maybe for no reason, because the whole hypnotic theory, I mean, it presupposes that that the triggers can be random. So and sometimes colors are actually used in classic hypnosis theory. So maybe it's just random. Just another way to torture them or another way to subjugate them. Presumably to show them red thing or black thing, and then they're under your command. That's why everywhere I go, there is always a red car that follows me. Like always. Red car, always you see the red car that like very theatrically, exposes itself to you. Like you see the red car and be, subjected to the wheel. Always, it's something that, they couldn't but notice. Now, it doesn't matter that many of my paintings are based on red backgrounds or, and the red color is very prominent in tremendous amount of my paintings. So it's kind of a question, how is it possible that I have conditioning against the red painting if I use it so much in the artwork that I produce, sometimes very big ones, a meter or on 70 centimeters, But again, empirical evidence doesn't really ever really changed the behavior of any Israeli. They do not care about empirical evidence. They just repeat the same things again and again. They do not seek results. They do not want to see the results. They do it just as a מצוות אנשים מלומדה. They just keep doing it. So, but they always expose you to the red color, presumably to subjugate you to the wheel, because you are afraid of it. Even if I paint huge paintings based on the red colors and different hues and shades, but even right now you can see it in this room, it's full of red things. But I have more of it, even more. That's what they do. So the question is what are these colors randomly chosen, or maybe they have something? Now it should be said that most probably the answer to this question was not known by the Israelis today, because the same triggers were used for more than 100 years, and because they do the same thing all the time. And again, and I've spoken about it yesterday, this understanding was probably something that my father and my grandfather understood when I was a very young child, and maybe they implanted anti-triggers on me. It sounds it sounds scientific, clock orange, but what it actually means is to expose you to that stuff. It's not something that, it's not like child abuse. It's to speak to you about snakes, so you will not be afraid of snakes, which is not, it's not that, it's not that bad. It's not something that, even if it doesn't work, it's still, it's not something bad to speak with a child about snakes. But the idea is that the triggers are always the same. In that, my father and grandfather were completely correct. They never changed, the Israelis. That's why I've never encountered any kind of trigger which is based on something that is technologically new. Nothing. Everything existed 100 years ago. Because they just do the same. They just do the same thing again and again. It was all already done 100 years ago. And using the same psychological triggers. 100. Just to show you what kind of startup nation you deal with. This is the startup nation. They do the same terrorized mythology with the same psychological triggers that they have done 100 years ago. So it's possible that these colors were chosen 100 years ago or 80 years ago by people that had much more understanding regarding the neuron language. Because some people it's obvious that with time knowledge regarding the planet Venus only deteriorated. There is actually less and less knowledge, as opposed to what you would have thought. But this is probably because people first of all, I mean, this relates to the issue of, like, I mean, of like what happened during the 80s, like, I mean, which is kind of, like, I mean, another video that I promised to hold, like, I mean, previously, I mean, I know I spoke about the Starship, like, in previous video, but then I said that another video will be dedicated to the issue of Israel and America, which is a subject that I did a lot in this channel. So, I mean, it's kind of like an executive summary. It's not, you can find it in many other videos. I should just say that, I mean, that up until the 1980s, the elite groups in Israel, certainly those that, I mean, were part of politics and the security sector or the intelligence sectors, they were not necessarily the richest people, but they were certainly the elites and, you know, the people who use all the power, and mostly the people who use the money, but not necessarily. These people were, like, up until the 1980s, they were characterized by the fact that they were extremely evil and cruel, and generally they were relatively of high intelligence, not supreme, but they had brains and they had education. Not, I mean, extremely high, but I mean, yeah, more than the average, like, in the world. But society completely changed during the 1980s because of events that I will describe maybe in the next video, and are related to the Starship that you see above your heads right now. And after that time, the society in Israel, including, like, the new upper classes that are, I mean, part of, you know, security and intelligence and politics, they are characterized by that they are also cruel and evil, but somewhat less than before. They are not that cruel and evil, but they are still cruel and evil, and they are substantially less intelligent and educated. Substantially, like, I mean, there was a huge reduction in, like, I mean, the average intelligence and education of these people, accompanied by somewhat reduction in their evilness and cruelty. So is the situation better than before? The answer is that it doesn't matter, because the Americans are there. I mean, they are the ones that are in charge, and they should be they will be done by the starships. I mean, the trash in Israel doesn't matter since the 1980s. It's like, I mean, it's of no significance. The country is dead since the 1980s. It's like an archaeological digging since the 1980s. That's why I say it all the time. I was born in the USSR, in the territory of Israel, but I was born in the United States, in the territory of Israel. I was born in the USA, because Israel does not exist. It was done, but like during the 1980s, and it's just, I mean, it's an archaeological, like, you know, concept, the concept of Israel. Since the 1980s, there is only the United States and their territories. But all of this is to say that, I mean, it's another kind of contributing factor for why, I mean, people are so stupid today. And, like, I mean, especially among the, you know, people of the intelligence services and the security sectors, they are incredibly stupid, much more than they were during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Like, I mean, in substantial and very significant way, they are absolutely less intelligent and less educated than what their equivalent people were, I mean, during the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, up to the 80s. So what happened to all these smart people? They were fried by the Starship and they're dead. That's what happened to them. And now they are in hell. So people just don't know, but I mean, there is a good chance that some of the triggers actually meant something, or had kind of, like, I mean, had like rational explanations that people just don't understand now. And this is probably true to the colors, because my assumption is that the people of Israel understood the power of the Neo language, and they understood historically that it's a way for the Titans to rebel against them, because they can use it, and this is true both for the females and for the males. Because, I mean, they can use the language in order to command the Neros to do all sorts of stuff. Now, the Israelis, I mean, the other nations, they eat this stuff. So, I mean, it's a way to kind of, I mean, to hurt them. It's a way to hurt them. And that's what I do. Now, yes, what I do is mostly affects the Titan females, because it's like Even Yaru Misparaim, as they say. Like, you know, Caesar paper rock, I mean, game. That, like, I mean, that I kind of, like, I mean, control the females, and the females control the Homo sapienses, because they and the Homo sapienses can and do terrorize me. So it's really like, you know, rock, paper, scissors, what's up happening. And it's not a new issue. This issue was known many decades ago. But probably in the beginning, I mean, the Israelis also understood like the issue of the Neo language, and that thing was completely lost. I mean, no one knows nothing about it right now. I'm certain. Like, I mean, they know nothing about it. So the issue with the red and the purple is probably rooted, and also the black, probably rooted in some kind of understanding of the Neo language. And indeed, they have meaning. And I've already said that red is associated with life and black is associated with space. So I mean, yeah. I mean, presumably, if I don't have any problem with any color, but I mean, and purple is associated with Venus, but this is something that probably belongs to, like, I mean, to the past, and it's not probably used since long ago. I mean, the issue with purple is something that my guess is that no Israeli have any idea like what it means now, because it's related to things that happened a long time ago in Venus. I mean, well, there are still Israelis over there, but I mean, regarding the black and the red, it's kind of like obvious, because if I had not, if for example, if I was conditioned totally against the black and the red, and I couldn't like choose it at all, like, I mean, as my palette, so yes, I would have had problems, like, I mean, with, first of all, with painting of space scenes, like you see here. And obviously I don't. I mean, I paint a lot of space opera scenes, all sort of, like, not only with the starship, but also other things as well. And also I had problems with living things, and you know, and like as part of the language. And I don't have, as you know, I have actually, it's one of my hobbies is to create new life forms, and to infect like all of theirs with it. It's like my main hobby, I would say, in the last year, is the creation of new life forms. But yes, maybe it's something that was rooted, like, maybe it's like, you know, the ancient explanation of this presumably random you know, choice of triggers. What more? Okay, so I'll stop here and I'll think about some more. Still need to discuss, like, I mean, the issue of the triggers that are particularly related to behaviors, like, that are required. But let's do it in another video, and maybe I'll think about some other stuff as well. And also I need, like, to do the executive summary of the issue of the Israeli-American relationship, even though I've spoken about it a lot in the past, so I don't know if it's that important, because there are so many videos with this regard. It's just that I just thought that maybe, I mean, you know, right now there are so many new subscribers to the channel because of, like, you know, the starships. So maybe they were, like, I mean, and then just, I mean, I want to be clear, like, why do I always say that, I mean, that I'm, like, you know, that Israel is dead, and, you know, that why do I blame the Americans for everything that bad that's happening to me and my daughters? And, like, I mean, so just, I mean, so you understand the historical circumstances. But I mean, in general, like, in one sentence, I would just, I mean, because, I mean, following what happened during the 1980s, the Americans took control over the place, and since then they are the bosses. So this is, like, you know, in one sentence. But I mean, of course, maybe I'll do another video. This is like, in which, I mean, I'll say a few more words with regards to the people that, I mean, can find info in, like, the previous many videos that were uploaded to this channel.